Okay, let's do a quick overview of the American Medical Association's Manual of Style. There are two quick ways to access this guide. One is through the UT libraries. If you go to databases and you search for AMA, it's the first one. If you're off campus, you'll have to enter in your UT EID. The other way to access the guide is through our Canvas pages. If you're on the home page, the modules, if you go down toward the bottom, there's the learning resources, and you'll see a link to the AMA Manual of Style. And here's a link you can use through UT Libraries Easy Proxy. Since we have it open here, let's take a quick look at some of the items that are here. I've copied the table of contents and some of the aspects that might be most helpful in your Public Health 317 projects. For example, the publications that use AMA typically follow the same format that we will use in our data and communications of introduction, methods, results, and discussion. We'll want to look at a few things in references, since you will need to cite reputable peer review sources. We go to references. We'll look at the numbering system first. It says references should be numbered consecutively. That means in order, 1, 2, 3, with Arabic numerals. That's just the regular 1, 2, 3 numbers that we use, in order in which they are cited in the text. So in order of appearance, the first citation that you want to use will be number 1, and so forth. This citation page, some examples of how to make the citation. Note that you will use an Arabic numeral superscript after the information that you want to cite. And it gives a couple examples of how best to do a citation. So you might want to look at those examples. The next section, authors, tells you how to list the authors. Note there's very little punctuation except for a comma between the authors. We have the last name, first initial, the middle initial, if there is one. And then note, if you have more than 6 authors for a reference, you only list the first 3 and then you use et al. Next, let's look at electronic references, because most of the references that you are likely to have will be from online sources. So let's look at online journals first. At the top, it gives the basic format that one wants to have, but I find the specific examples to be the most helpful. Typically, you can find one that looks like your article. Note that online journals might have URLs. Some have the digital object identifier instead of the URL. The DOI is preferred over the URL. Let's look at a specific example here. Here we see the authors, and note we only list the first 3. So if we looked at this reference, we would see it has more than 6 authors. Then we see the title of the article. Initially, this was published early online and then subsequently has a printed version. And so we see the journal name abbreviated according to the National Library of Medicine's abbreviation, and it's italicized. And then we have the year of the publication, a semicolon, volume, in parentheses the issue, a colon, and then inclusive numbers. Note if you look this up in PubMed, PubMed would leave out the 3, so it's a little shorter, so you would want to add that back. And then we have the digital object identifier that is unique to this article. And then I would get into the habit of adding an access date after each of your online references. You can see some of these have that. Another source you may wish to cite are websites. Again, here we have the basic format of what AMA wants for a website. Note that a lot of website publications don't always have an author or a title. And so if those aren't given, you should use the name of the organization responsible. For example, this first one here, there's no author, nor is there a title for the item, so they put the organization that's responsible. Next, you have the name of the website. Sometimes the name of the website and the organization that's responsible is the same, so you wouldn't be redundant and put it twice. But here it's different, and you add the word website. And then you put the URL, and if there is a published date or an updated date, you would put that, and then you would put the access date when you accessed that online material. So here we see published date, update, and notice the month is not abbreviated. Here's an example from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. That is a approved website for Public Health 317. You can see they have the item title, then they have the name of the website, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. Then they have the URL for the article, when it was updated, and when it was accessed. There's some other electronic references that you might want to cite. You can take a look at those on your own. Let's look at the style section under grammar. If you need any brushing up, and also punctuation, when to use things and how. For example, sometimes people have difficulty putting commas in the right place. Here it tells you some of the rules and what to avoid and how to do it better. And it has that for a number of types of punctuation. And then under the third section, it has some information about abbreviations. If you don't know how to abbreviate something, this can be useful. Specifically, for our online journals, we need to abbreviate the name of our journal according to the National Library of Medicine's abbreviation. In Canvas, I give a couple different ways of how to look up the abbreviation. Remember, from PubMed, it has the National Library of Medicine's abbreviation, so then you don't have to worry about it. But you can also enter in the full name of the journal and search it in the National Library of Medicine's catalog if there's an abbreviation. Not all journals are in the National Library of Medicine, and so you may have a reference that does not have an abbreviation. You don't make one up. If it doesn't have an official abbreviation, that's okay. You just use the whole thing, but you need to check. And then the final thing that I want to point out is the sort of medical abbreviations for terms. For example, the official abbreviation for Alzheimer's disease is AD. So if you're writing about Alzheimer's, you can have the full expanded form the first time and put AD in parentheses, and then throughout the rest of the writing, you can just use the abbreviation AD. You can see there's a lot here in this guide. But it's pretty organized, and it has quizzes, like especially for the grammar, if you want to test yourself on some of that, that might be useful. There's really only a few things that you need for the Public Health 317 assignments. Good luck.